so same as last week. I'm Dr. Carrot Cake. You guys want to introduce yourselves again?
I am Malverick, also known as Austin.
And I am Faintest Gem, also known as Taylor.
I guess I'm also known as Josh. I didn't know we were giving away real names
Well,
now.
we did last week.
Oh, I
Yeah, we
forgot
did.
about that. Oh,
Fucking old
boy,
man already forgetting shit.
boy.
What
Okay.
is this podcast about again?
Uh, boy, it's been rough. All right. So last week we went over the history of Ionia, and since then they released the Confessions of a Broken Blade, which mostly focused on Riven and Yasuo. Um, so, question: did either of you read the three
Yeah,
chapters?
they read all of them.
I didn't read all of them. I didn't do my homework. I'm sorry.
Taylor,
Okay,
how
okay.
dare you?
I didn't do
Oh
my
my
I'm
homework.
God.
disappointed with you.
Oh
Ah.
God, this is why we're losing to the other Lord podcast. God. All right. So, I guess we could start with before the chapters. We'll focus on Riven and then go to Yasuo before the Ionian invasion. Then we'll kind of work up to the chapters that they released. Um, so, what do you guys know about Riven and Yasuo?
I know Riven was a noxious general, I believe, wasn't she?
No, she was not a general, but she was a
Jenna, she's
soldier.
she's a soldier, yeah, and that she
Yeah.
was part of the Ionia invasion or something. And that something happened and she got injured, I believe.
Kind of. So basically, what happened was, Riven started out as a farm girl, in Noxus, uh, who basically came to believe the ideals that many Noxians kind of envision. It's where it's like you put the state first before yourself, before anyone else, and she kind of grew up in that mindset, and she ended up being like an exceptional soldier. So she got slowly promoted over time. Um, and as time went on, the Ionian invasion began, and she was sent out. And from what's basically understood is, she was transporting some chemical weapons which were made by Singed, uh, or however you say his name. I've
Singed.
heard, yeah, I've heard multiple people say it a couple ways, but
I don't think there's
basic.
any other way to say it.
Well, I've heard Singed, and I've heard somebody once pronounce it as Sin. I can't say it.
That's
It's not. It's
What's
stupid.
it's
wrong?
entirely wrong.
It was, yeah. It was like they really pronounced the SIN, and then they did like it was weird. My point is they did the chemicals. They were transporting the chemicals. They didn't realize that it was a suicide mission. So what happened was, when they were attacked by the Ionians, the chemicals kind of like went off, and it flooded the entire place in the chemicals, and it killed all the most of the Noxians besides Riven and all the Ionians around. And from what we've seen in comics and stuff like that, like Darius's lover, when she was shown, her name is Quill, I believe. When she was shown in Darius's comic, she got some of the poison in her system, and they actually had to amputate her arm as
Oh
quickly as
shit.
possible before it spread. They actually had to hold her down with three men, and then they had a man with an axe chop off her arm. Um, so basically, this chemical is not anything to fuck with.
Yeah.
Uh, so as time went on, Riven, was watching everyone around her die in this instance, and she was the only survivor. So basically, she has post-traumatic stress disorder now. She's survivor's guilt. She doesn't know why
Yeah.
she's the only one alive, and since then she's basically been like, I'm done with Noxus. I don't have any interest in it. I'm going to basically go on my own and try to find my own way. And on the opposite side is Yasuo, who who basically grew up as I don't know how to describe him with
Apprentice. Isn't
no.
he like apprentice to Soma?
Yeah, but that's after. The way he started out was he was the brother of the village, like they described him as the pride and joy, and he was basically like nobody wanted to like reference that Yasuo was like alive. They basically hated him.
Insert your Yasuo's cancer joke right here.
Right, yeah. Yeah, basically they basically made the joke his lore. They're like everybody hates him, and so
Has it ever
uh
explained why they hate him? Or is it just like, oh, he's just bad luck?
uh
I remember hearing something that was like he's bad luck or something, and like,
if I remember right, they mostly just called him a mistake or something like that. There wasn't. I don't remember anything about there being bad luck, but I do remember they just kind of looked down on him and just thought he was kind of a waste. Um, but his brother
hmm,
was accepted into a training school, and the way he really admired his brother, and his brother really did care for him. Perhaps the only person that actually cared for him. So he sat outside the school for days and days, and he was waiting for to be let in because he wanted to be like his brother. And Elder Suma, how did you say it before, Austin?
I think it's so. I don't know.
Soma. Okay. Elder Soma was impressed by Yasuo, so he brought him in as his apprentice to learn the wind technique. And like many Ionians, when the Noxians invaded, he wanted to go out and fight for his country. You know, he wanted to go fight these invaders, and Soma and the others were remaining in the school, and his job was to protect Elder Soma. Well, at one point he heard Noxian war drums in the distance, and he thought he could change the tide of the battle, so he left his post. And when he got to the valley, he found many Ionians and Noxians dead, but it was clear that the Noxians had kind of just murdered the Ionians that had fought against them, and basically he was too late. And then he returned back to the village where Soma was, and he found Soma dead. And his fellow students and teachers came in and were like, "What the hell, man?" um, and he was like, "I didn't do it, I swear." And they're like, "I don't really believe you." So they were going to arrest him. He somehow escaped. Uh, it came out. So they started sending like assassins and other people to basically bring him in or to kill him for his crime. And at one point, his brother was sent out to capture him, and Yasuo and his brother ended up dueling, and Yasuo killed his brother.
Yeah.
And since then, he's been kind of wandering around as well. That this is before the story. So then, at this point, we're kind of at the point where the Ionian invasion of is over. Both uh, both are kind of exiles. They don't really have anyone or anything that's going their way, or everything sucks. So uh, we pick up in the first story with Riven, who is plowing a old couple's farm for them, and it's really interesting in my opinion because it showed that uh, the Ionians, despite knowing she was Noxian, uh, have can are still treating her like, well,
A person.
yeah, I don't want to say that because later in the story there's some contradiction there, but
I
yeah,
mean, these Ionians are treating her.
the, the yeah these two, the old couple are basically treating her very well, and um
She's like practicing her like Ionian too, right?
yeah,
So she means to be there for a while. She's
she's
practicing her.
yeah, she's trying to get rid of the accent basically. Um, and Yasuo comes at one point. There's a small exchange where he kind of makes fun of her Ionian dialect because she can't quite get it right, and then she's basically arrested and brought to City Hall. Uh,
Now, an interesting point about when they first talk actually is that like you can like because I remember it mentions she got like gets real tense when she finds out somebody's watching her, and like she instinctively like thinks about reaching for the plow blade, and like thinking that it could be used as a weapon. And like when they're talking, it's really not even her talking; it's just Yasuo talking to her because she doesn't want to give away that she's like Noxian. So she's just kind of just standing there. She's
Yeah,
like super tense.
yeah. She won't. She knows she can't like speak in the same kind of dialect as he can. She knows her words will give her away, so she's just basically staying quiet in the hope that he'll move on. And in the second chapter, she's brought before a court, and they basically are like, "We know you're Noxian. We want we want to know this information. If this information reveals you did a crime, uh, then we will punish you accordingly." And basically, from here, we get to see the how the Ionian judicial system works, in which they basically bring in magical priests and elders and highly respected officials into the city hall, and they basically have like a little council set up, and then they let everybody in the village sit in the room, and then they basically just have the person share their side of the story. They bring in witnesses to speak on the person's character and things like that, and then they kind of just like they explore their options from there, um, which is kind of interesting. I thought it was a unique way for a judicial system to work because it's kind of like there was no crime she was charged with at the beginning. It was you tell us what we want to know, and then if there's a crime somewhere in there, we're gonna punish you for it.
What I
Which
also really like about that, sorry to interrupt you.
no, sorry.
What I really like about that chapter also was that it kind of just showed still how that like what kind of mind shit she was in. Because I remember the guy offered her water, and she instinctively didn't like go for it because she thought it might be like poisoned or something. So like, but then he just drank it himself, and he like kind of like laughs at her a little bit, and she like wouldn't take a seat or anything. She'd only
Yeah,
stand.
she's still very Noxian in mannerisms in a way, despite trying to be Ionian. It's really she seemed more like a soldier still, despite trying to hide the fact that she was a soldier.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, there's also the fact that, she's part of the army that was trying to wipe these people out. She probably assumes they're not going to be take too
yeah.
kindly to her being there.
right. Well, that plays into a huge part later where basically they want to know about Soma's death, and what happened. What got her in trouble originally was she hid her blade. She still had her blade, and the old man who took her in found it, and he brought it to these priests, and he wanted it repaired for her. And they realized that the words on it were Noxian. They realized it was powerful magic, and they're like, okay, this isn't great. And then one of the I forget exactly. I think it's like a cleaning boy recognized that one of the blade pieces was missing, and he knew where the last piece was, and it was found on Elder Soma's body when he was discovered. And so what happened was uh, they bring the blade in, and Riven's starting to panic. She tenses up, and they put it back together. And they use magic to infuse it, and it basically releases a huge blast of energy that knocks everyone over. And to go back a little, they're asking her questions about like why these things happen, and she can't remember. She keeps saying, "I don't know, I don't remember, I don't know." But when this blast
Does
of energy,
not reflect well on her.
yeah, it does not look good. So when this blast of energy happens, she kind of has like a brief like memory, like where she just screams for everybody to get down, and the energy knocks everybody back. It sends everything flying, and then she remembers, and all of a sudden she admits to it. She's like, I killed him. I killed your elder. And that's where chapter 2 ends.
Well, she just admits to that. She's like, I killed the like your like elder. I killed them all, and she's like starts to think of like all the people that like
Yeah, it
died.
basically the sword coming back basically lets her remember everything that she had been repressing, and she starts to describe them as seeing ghosts. She looks out and she sees the ghost of the people she killed and the people she saw
Like
die.
the kids of the old couple.
Well,
She
yeah,
sees them.
yeah, she in the next chapter, or maybe it was in chapter 2. I
Can't
kind of read
remember.
these two right after, but basically, it's the old couple defends Riven, uh, and they ask them. The council asks them, "Didn't you lose two sons in the Ionian invasion?" And they said, "Yes, we lost our children." And she looks out and she realizes that many of these people probably lost children or mothers or fathers in this invasion by Noxus, because Noxus went from trying to invade into trying to eradicate the Ionians. And so a lot of people lost loved ones, and she's looking out and she's seeing the people that died from the chemical attack around her, her brothers and sisters. She's looking out and seeing all the Ionians that died. So she's basically, freaking out. And it's eventually decided that Riven needs to be kind of like it's eventually decided that they're going to decide how to punish her in the morning, but until then they're going to lock her up in the room, and anybody who wants to say anything can come in during the night and say what and make their peace with her. And basically everybody leaves her alone after that.
Nah, I
And
think some people just threw fucking like
well, they threw
shit.
food at her multiple times, but
You know,
yeah.
don't ever try to talk to her or anything. Just kind of fucking
Yeah,
chuck
no.
shit at her.
Yeah, they basically just chuck food at her, but nobody's like coming up to talk to her until the old man, who had taken her in, comes in, and he starts to free her because he starts to reference her as daughter. Um, and after he frees her, they hear somebody kind of outside, so she tells him to hide, and she looks, and it's Yasuo, and they get into a confrontation, and basically he forces her to take her blade, and they start dueling. And from there, uh, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. Yasuo used a wind technique, from what I understand, to basically mimic what Elder Soma had done, and it made the blade burst once again. And that same piece that had killed Elder Soma started flying off in the direction of the old man, except this time Yasuo had stopped it. With his wind technique, he was able to stop it.
Goddamn wind wall.
And basically, and and it's at this point it's kind of discovered that what happened was Riven, in her journey, had gone out and found Elder Soma. Um, and she had asked him to destroy the blade. She didn't want anything to do with Noxus, and he agreed. And he wasn't quite prepared for the energy that was stored inside, so when he broke it with his wind technique, it like shattered, and the piece went into his neck and killed him. She panicked. She left, and like this is what happened. She killed him, but she didn't murder him, so to speak. Um, so Yasuo uh understand, like it's kind of like I should have been there. He's like it's not, he's like, you're a killer but you didn't like mean to do it. I should have been there. I could have stopped it. um and the I'm gonna call her the judge, but I believe she's a priest who's kind of overlooking the council
I think she's
of,
a judge.
yeah.
I remember it mentioning her as judge.
Well, yeah, she's acting as the judge. She's a priest, I believe. Otherwise, she had been watching this entire thing from like the back, I guess, and she basically talks about, she mentions how she understands what happens now. She had been watching and listening, but she also was telling Yasuo that while it's good that he admit what he did is wrong, the next step was the most important, and the next step is forgiveness. Forgiving yourself, to be specific. So we're kind of left there where Yasuo hasn't quite forgiven himself, and Riven still has to stand trial. So at this point, Yasuo leaves, and the next day Riven's at trial, and she's chained up, and the judge is kind of like giving her speech, and she is explaining that despite what the Noxians did, killing Riven's not going to solve anything, which is kind of huge, because it didn't look great for Riven going in, but after, like, even though we know she's not like a killer at this point, it was still kind of shocking because you kind of expect the Ionians to really rally against the Noxians, but many of the Ionians in the crowd were like, "Yeah, the death isn't really going to solve anything," so they punish her by giving her hard labor, in which they make her work the fields of the old couple that she has already been working for, and they basically like let her off the hook, but they made a big scene out of it to satisfy anyone who might be like, "But she's Noxian," and she's let go and she starts working her village, but she notices that she still sees the ghost of all those people that died, so she hasn't really moved on either. So while the immediate like danger to Riven like is kind of over, she can't really move on from the past, it seems, and it seems her and Yasuo are kind of stuck where it's now a journey of learning to move on yourself, since everyone else has moved around you, and we're kind of left off at that point where it I don't want to call it a happy ending, but it's definitely better than it was, if that makes sense.
So now, like timeline wise, so this means that while Yasuo had left to go fight in that battle, Riven had come to the village and like gotten her blade broken, right? That means
uh
in the timeline. That's the only way that makes sense
yeah,
because he left
yeah.
and he came back and he was dead.
Uh,
That was pretty interesting.
yeah. She basically, when he left, she came into the village. Yes.
Also, I'd love to see the same kind of trial, but in Noxus. I would want to see like how
Oh,
they would
it.
have handled. I imagine it'd just be
I
like
mean,
death
she would
penalty
have been
immediate.
dead.
Yeah,
I think that's
she'd be
a.
complete. Well, in the short story with, I believe it's Swain, they do have a similar trial where they're brought before the trio of Swain, Darius, and then this mysterious person who I'm pretty sure is LeBlanc, but we'll get into that another time. Uh, and they're basically like, it's a brother and sister, and they're trying to like secede from the Noxus Empire, and they basically go, yeah, we don't want to be part of this empire. And then the Noxians kind of laugh at them, so they're like, well, we're gonna make one of them agree with us, so then we can force the other two to agree with us. And they plan this huge assassination technique, and they realize they've been set up as well. Like, so their whole plan is actually a trap. Um, and she turns on her brother, she kills him, and then she's back in the courtroom, and they're like, well, why'd you kill your brother? And she goes, well, I realized you guys were gonna kill me, and like there wouldn't be a trial. You just fucking murder me. So, yeah, that seemed like the best call at the time. And I'm like, yeah, that was a pretty good call. We're gonna send you back to your house now. I'm gonna give you two of my. There's a special legion of soldiers that are like feared throughout Noxus, and Darius is like, yeah, I'm gonna send you back with two of those soldiers because he made a joke earlier that two of his soldiers from this legion could take their entire city, and then she goes back to her city with these two soldiers, and uh, well, we'll get into that another time, but let's just say his story was very accurate. Two soldiers can take an entire city.
Yeah.
Basically, they'll kill you if they don't like your ideas. So Riven would not have done so well.
I feel like
But
that shows a very big difference just in general between the two cultures. Like, I feel like you have more of a chance to be your own person and have different ideas in Ionia, without being struck down where you stand.
They're a bunch of hippies, that's why they're like,
Right?
oh man, raw magic, dude.
but
Noxus
I mean,
is the man, trying to put him down.
yeah, Noxus is a journey that we'll have to dive into another time. um, so I mean, overall, what do you guys think of how Ionia, I mean, Yasuo and Riven were handled as characters?
I like the stories really a lot. I like to see more about like Riven and what she's kind of dealing with. We saw a little bit of what Yasuo's dealing with, but I'd like more stuff on him. Like another story just focused on him. I thought it was pretty good. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I think it did a good job of explaining, like you said, that's the survivor's guilt kind of thing that she's been dealing with. I think it did a really good job of showing that.
It makes me want to see a confrontation between her and Singed. And like I want to see a conversation between them.
Singed has created so many monstrosities in the world of Runeterra. He's created Warwick, which, by the way, there's like notes online of the experiment he did to Warwick, and it's fucking atrocious. Like it makes what he did to Riven look like child's play. It's real fucked up
So you
shit.
say he probably doesn't remember Riven? Probably
Yeah,
doesn't remember
well,
it.
he remembers the money that Noxus give to him, but I don't think he knows or cares about Riven or her 70 friends who died. Like he could give a shit less. Uh, let's see. I mean, what I found interesting was we learned a lot about Ionia and subtle things. We saw that we had Riven mention that each village had its own dialect of for their common language, and so like and like we learned a lot about the Ionian language. We learned about how I believe it's called Urnox. If I'm saying that wrong, I apologize, but it's Urnox is a very rough and to the point language, while Ionians are each kind of have their own little spin on things. So it's kind of like each village, like how I'm from Boston, but Taylor is from the South. How like I'll say
The
talk.
South.
Yeah, well,
It's
well,
real
well,
general with it.
well, yeah, I don't want to give away. Look, I don't want to give away everybody's location. I'm fine giving away
That's not
mine,
true. You
but
don't know where I live. Don't
I think it
don't
really
lie.
good.
that's true. Shut up, shut up, shut up, Taylor. So I didn't want to admit it, but yeah. So basically, it like how I'll say ka or something like that. It's like there's a little different thing with each village, which I thought was pretty cool.
I think
And then
a good analogy. Oh, sorry. Keep
no,
on
no,
fucking cutting you off. Is China because
Yeah,
China
I mean
has
that's what
a lot
Ionia
of
is
their
based on, right? Is
yeah.
it's Asian culture,
Eastern
yes.
Asian, and it's very much like that, where each village has its own dialect and slang, and the language just varies from region to region. Like you could go like a couple towns over and not understand anything.
Exactly. And the other interesting thing was they really focused on the Ionian judicial system. It seems like each village kind of like handles its own problems. Uh, like they kind of have everybody gather at the city hall, and like as a community, they kind of like decide how things go. And there was, I mean, they didn't go super in depth, like this is like how it works, but it was cool to see just like how the average village of Ionia would deal with a prisoner of war kind of situation. Like there's a Noxian in our village. She's killed. She's responsible for many deaths. What do we do? All right. And it was interesting just to watch like these common people kind of, handle the situation. Uh, and I also thought that I don't want to say prejudice against Noxians because it could have been a lot worse, but there was definitely a lot of anger the moment they found out she was Noxian. Like the man who arrested her, who was also on the council, was like, oh, like he was taunting her. He was overjoyed. He was sneering at her because they got a Noxian. Like she was going to pay for what she did. Like she was the bad guy no matter what they did, and I thought that was really interesting. It's like no matter who Riven was, at first they didn't see anything past she's a Noxian.
I know a lot of people in like the it was a church that it was being held in, right? Forgot like where was it being
I
held?
let me check real quick.
But where like all the people basically kind of gasped when like they revealed that she was a Noxian. Just like oh like
I think they knew she was a Noxian. I think they hold on.
the village.
It'll cast guy as a person's. They just describe it as a hall,
Like a city hall now.
and they were warrior priests. The council was warrior priest. Um, but yeah, what was I gonna say? I thought it was interesting overall how we got to see a lot of how the social dynamics of Ionia worked, as well as seeing Riven and Yasuo uh inner conflicts kind of play out in front of all these people. But that was just my opinion.
Just your theory.
Yeah, no,
Um,
we're gonna get
Stop
sued.
it.
We're gonna get sued.
So I was gonna say when you brought up the like the way the council and stuff worked was I remember reading that when I was reading about karma, I think, a while back, where it's just the Ionian government in general just seems very hands off. Like the like the grand governing force of Ionia or whatever is basically just like another council where there's a bunch of people that just meet and talk about stuff. There's no like one person calling the shots.
Yeah.
A
It's
good analogy for it is America during the times of the Articles of Confederation before like the Declaration and everything was made, and which like not Declaration, it was Articles of Confederation, where it's basically all the states all together, and there's a kind of a government, but for the most part the states govern themselves
yeah.
and have their
Yeah.
own sets of like rules and laws and everything.
Yeah. Well, that is changing, like we mentioned last week with the Brotherhood. The Navori Brotherhood. I got it this week, by the way. Navori Brotherhood. Uh, are kind of wanting that to change. They kind of want one centralized government, from what I can tell. That's just a theory, though, and don't make that fucking joke, Austin. Uh,
Damn it,
uh,
that's it.
uh, but it seems like things are changing. But at the moment, yes, it's kind of. I would compare it to what you said, the pre-declaration. And then, I mean, other than that, it was a in a world that's kind of like in a land that's playing out with these huge political battles. This was just kind of a quick look in the two people who are just kind of on their own, and their stories aren't maybe center stage, but it's very nice to see uh, just how their lives are affected by what happened with the Ionian invasion.
I know you said that like the stories aren't really center stage, but then like arguably there's really no characters there center stage. It's just such a huge world that there's so many plot lines going on, so many stories. There's not
Well,
really any main characters. Like I know Zed of course is like a huge character. I know like Aurelia is a huge character, but arguably there's so many that it's just such a huge canvas. That there's no main characters.
well, I don't want to like, yeah, I don't want to say that they're side characters to anything. I just mean like in the grand scheme of things, Aurelia is fighting for for freedom, and there's these huge political groups fighting. Um, I don't want to
Right,
make it.
sadness.
I don't want to make it sound like they're not as important, because they are just as important as Aurelia and the Kinku and the Order of Shadows. It's just their conflicts are much smaller scale than, the Navori Brotherhood wants to become the new Noxus and and Zed wants to march onto the Noxus Empire and cut off Swain's head, and like these huge political fights. This is just two people who are dealing with the consequences of their actions, and they have to learn to forgive themselves. It's a very good story. It's but it's not going to affect all of Ionia. It's not to say it's any less important, though, than any other story.
Yeah. This is more of a hypothetical question because you mentioned Zed like trying to kill Swain. Which would be better overall for the world? Swain killing Zed or Zed killing Swain?
I would. That's a hard one. That's a battle of philosophy, because Swain is arguably the best the best leader Noxus could have, but Zed 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 has in a way. This is gonna be hard. Okay, I'm gonna make this argument real quick. Zed Zed has the moral high ground in a way because he can go and be like, the Noxians killed my people, blah blah blah. But Swain was a general in the military. He invaded I can't say it, but he invaded Ionia. He was part of the invasion. He wants to go in. He wants to wipe Noxians from the earth, and it's
The Ionians.
understandable. Uh, and it's understandable. But Swain is logically a lot better of a ruler than Darkwill, who was the previous leader. Uh, because he's just a lot more logical. He realizes that um, a lot of the things the Noxians have done weren't the best ideas, and he's really just focused on building a strong empire. So I mean, it's really, I don't think either would really be good, because if Zed killed Swain, then the Noxians could fall back into the Dark Will and LeBlanc kind of warmongers. But if Swain killed Zed, then he's just kind of proving Zed's whole point, right? And that would just make more people pick up their weapons.
Yeah,
And
a martyr.
yeah, he makes Zed a martyr, and nobody ever wants to make somebody else into a martyr, because then you just prove them right. So it's a very complicated situation in that case, but it's an interesting hypothetical. But I mean, unless you guys have any other points to bring up, the only other thing is to kind of look over the potential next week's podcast, and the potential stuff that had come out or was hinted at over the last week as well.
I mean, the only thing I was gonna say when we were talking about like the scale of the stories and stuff is I really like these smaller ones, because I like the more introspective sort of when it's like personal about a couple specific characters. I really like those compared to like the big like battles and all the political nonsense.
It definitely it makes the world more realistic to me. I
Yeah.
think it's nice because you're not looking at these huge battles all the time. They're not these grand like productions to quote a certain serial killer that one of us has an unhealthy obsession with, Taylor.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But
I would appreciate if you don't spread rumors.
all right, listen, Jin is a monster. There's no, but
I mean, we could argue about that another time. I
But-
think he might be an alright guy.
I will.
I've never met him. Have you
I
ever
will
met him?
fight you.
he made a woman into a lamp.
I'm sure it was,
It was a nice lamp.
beautiful lamp. He seems
All
like a
right,
great artist.
we're not doing this right now. We're not doing this. But but it definitely does make the world, a little more realistic, and it's nice to see. I agree.
Yeah.
But
Shows like the world isn't all about magical monsters killing each other.
Well, it's
or
not just
giant.
that. It's
It's just
like
It's smaller kind of like
yeah,
things
it
going
makes
on.
the characters feel more real. That they
Yeah.
actually have stuff going on in their life.
yeah. Um. But besides that, next week, since we were supposed to do it this week, but then the Riven stuff happened, we're gonna try to tackle the Aurelia story and what's going on with her. If that's good with you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe
No.
look into
Fiddlesticks.
no fiddlesticks. Maybe look into Swain a little too. And then eventually, we might have to go over the Kinku. The only issue with that is Akali's possibly leaving and going rogue, which
I don't
hurts
want to.
my-
I don't. I don't
Sweating
want
bullets
to.
right now.
I don't want to
Jesus.
even. I don't want to even touch this subject. I don't want to hear you rant.
Oh god. Okay.
I'm not
Just
gonna.
for everybody watching, prepare for that episode to be at least 2 hours long.
Oh
Okay,
my
no,
god.
look, real quick. I'm just gonna say I understand why they did it, and I'm fully okay with it. I'm nervous, but I'm fully okay with it. I'm not gonna rant. I
Yeah,
promise. I really
in the
like the Kinku.
In the next podcast, can you like cut this part in right here next to him yelling about like
Yeah.
Kali leaving,
It
and just screaming?
just
You know, just
I'm not gonna rant. And then hard
I'm not
cuts
gonna.
to minute like 54 where he's like, I can't believe Akali's leaving.
Yeah.
All right, you guys give me shit, but for you're like, oh, I don't, whatever.
Yeah,
I
we
put my
win.
I put my full trust in the Riot. Riot has done great with the Ionia story. I understand why they're doing it. It's building her character up because she can't stay. This is not the point of the episode, okay?
He's getting all worked up already.
Josh is like crying now. He's like,
Listen, I
Kali,
really,
Kali.
I shut up. I really like the Kinko, and while I'm nervous about them breaking up, we might actually have to tackle that before the lore change because it is going to involve Jin and
That her favorite boy band is breaking up.
what? I'm not,
No, I think no, that's a good one, but I think it's more like like those pop idols in South Korea and stuff like that. And
Oh,
like
he's a
those guys who
K-pop
like
fan.
follow her, like follow them fanatic. He's like one of those.
He's a fanatic K-pop fan.
Yeah.
I'm not. I've moved on from this topic. Why are we still on here?
Oh, it's adorable.
Every time you say Kenku though, it makes me think of Kenku from D&D. They're like these little like bird people, and it really
They're
confuses
not
me.
bird people.
Can
At
we
least
just-
I don't
Yeah,
think
they're
they're
not.
bird people.
I have to tell myself that they're not bird people.
I don't know. I've never seen Shen's face. He could be a bird person.
Oh, he could be a bird person. We don't know.
We're gonna have to cut. You're gonna have to cut some
That's
out
a,
of this.
that's
Taylor.
just a theory though. A game theory.
Taylor, you're gonna have. Taylor, I'm gonna ask you cut a good portion of this out.
No.
None of this is being
Then it's
cut.
gonna be boring. Just listen to you ramble.
Like an
Thanks,
old
Taylor.
man.
You guys hurt me. You guys hurt me so badly.
Alright, so
Yeah. What? Yeah. I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Just gonna end
Josh-
with you guys
all the
kicking
wind
me on the
is gone
ground.
out of Josh. All the excitement is gone. Just
Yeah, I was gonna say
shell
we're
of a
gonna go
man.
over. We're gonna go over the Kinku, the Order of Shadows, and the Vistayans too. But you know what? Whatever. Fine.
my what should I call it? My wife Uzaya. We're gonna talk about her.
We're gonna ban Zaya too. If I'm just gonna
Excuse
suffer,
me.
you get.
Zaya is one
No,
of the.
if we're.
I
if have to
really
if I
like
have to
Zaya
deal
and
with your guys'
Rakan's story
bullshit,
though.
I love Zaya.
if we're gonna, if I have, you guys are gonna make fun of me. I'm just gonna ban every topic that you find enjoyable. Everybody
I
suffers.
do not find fiddlesticks enjoyable.
All right.
Reverse psychology.
Now we're just rambling here at the end. All right. But yeah. So we have the Aurelia, Kinku, Order of Shadows, Vistayans, and then the Darken because Aatrox will be coming out as well, and Varus and Rost are also major parts of Ionia at the moment, so we'll probably have to go over them as well. But next week, Aurelia and her story, and then we can go from there. Anything you
Sounds
guys want to
good.
add?
No.
No. I think I'm good.
Here, you guys should totally plug your streams if you actually stream for
Plug your
once.
streams.
Hit me
I'll
up at
put 'em-
youtube.com
Shut up.
/Melverick.
Shut up. I'll put them up on the screen. Shut up. Don't
Twitch.com /Melverick.
don't give your.
Hit me up
Oh
on my
God.
LinkedIn, MySpace, and
Oh my god.
Yeah.
This is I try so hard. I try so
you?
hard. I do. Like I'm trying to. I'm trying to. I'm helping.
hit me up on Roblox.
Oh, dude, join my Minecraft server.
All right, just
Dude, man, we plug into Minecraft server, dude.
oh, you guys.
Our League of Legends RP Minecraft server, man.
Oh my God, I can feel Josh dying from here.
Don't feel Josh.
Oh.
Don't do that.
And my suffering.
He wants to call it that, not you. Sorry.
Austin,
We'll talk
will
about
put-
your wife in next week. Don't you worry.
I want to talk about my wife too at some point. Alright,
Is that
bye bye.
Fuck you.
That was great. I think you gotta spice it up, Josh. You gotta